Hi, everyone. Happy Friday. It's October 28th. Happy Halloween. I hope you're going to have a great weekend. Today, we got a special one for you, my usual 5 for Friday podcast. We have Michael Napolitano, the broker of ReMax Edge. He took some time out of his busy schedule, and we had a great time. It's a 30-minute podcast, so, bear with me. But I know you're going to find some interesting, valuable tidbits in there, and at least it'll get you a chance to get to know us and get to know our company. If you like the video or find anything valuable, please subscribe, please comment, please hit like, and I hope to see you guys or hear from you guys soon. Take care. Michael, thank you so much for joining us again on Friday's 5 for Friday. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's beautiful out there today, so I'm feeling good. Sun's out. It's a beautiful autumn day.
Awesome, awesome. So, few questions, right? How did you get started in real estate?
Interesting story, right? I was in college, high school college, nightclub promoter, doing any other side hustle to be able to make money. And I so happened to meet my mentor by connecting with one of his family members and actually booking a party, at a young age. And I would network with them. And it was interesting that they said, "Do you ever think about real estate?" And what was crazy about that is that no, I wasn't, because my mother said, "Go get a real job."
Right.
She's like, if you don't graduate college, maybe you'll go work for the city. And I was like, okay, yeah. So I had actually turned them down, my mentor. I turned him down. I said, "I can't do this." My mom said I should never take a job that's not guaranteed pay. And then eventually I just took them up on their offer after they kept on, kind of following up with me. Because it was interesting, when I booked the party, I had kind of followed up, say, "Hey, did you have a good time?
Right.
Would you come again? Would you send other family members?" Just kind of what we do in real estate.
Right.
So I guess that, for some reason, that connected with them, and they were like, "Hey, ever think about real estate?"
Oh my God.
So it's just an interesting story and how I got started, because I really, honestly, I said I literally told these adults, my mom said, they're offering me an opportunity of a lifetime, and I was like, my mom said, that, and I think the census, was offering like $20 an hour to go out and take the census. And I even told him, I said, because he said, "What's your backup plan?" I'm like, "Oh, I got the census going, I got nightclub promotions going," and I think, for a second, I'm sure they believed it was kind of a bizarre response.
Right.
But taking them up on our offer app changed my life forever.
You're gonna laugh. You're not the first nightclub promoter that went into real estate. It's a theme where outgoing people talking to other people and setting things up get into sales, and they're the best at it. So, amazing story. I love it. Mom, thank you for letting him get into real estate.
Thanks, Mom.
I appreciate it too. All right. Well, now that you are a successful broker by very, very wide standards, with 150 agents, 4 offices, the top brokerage in Brooklyn, on the Brooklyn MLS, what do you do in your role today?
Well, I wear a lot of hats. So our company, of course, aspires to be bigger, but predominantly, I focus primarily on the vision of where this enterprise is going, right? And I also still have a hand in also be able to help our very best agents, and also the content that we produce to help our agents grow their business.
I have a question though.
Sure.
What's that vision? If you wouldn't mind sharing, unless it's a secret vision.
No, it's not a secret vision. It's a vision of what I set out to begin with is really to, number one, we're a business that helps people build their business. That's first and foremost. We want to be in business with the best agents, not the hobbyists, not the maybes. We're going to get into real estate. We want to focus on those agents.
Right.
I hate to say for the industry, not for ReMax Edge, but unfortunately there's a lot more of like the dabblers versus the actual people like yourself who actually are grinding and really trying to build a successful practice. We want to be in business with those people. It's not necessarily the largest agent count. It's about who can we help to get from 0 to 100,000.
See, that conversation doesn't happen in a lot of brokerages, and the reason is that usually the broker is the guy out in the street getting the leads, getting the listings, and has agents working for him for his listings, right? But let's clarify something, because I don't think the public understands this. You don't do that, right?
No.
You don't work listings. You don't take listings. What do you do if someone calls you up today and says, "Michael, you sold my house 10 years ago. Would you sell my house? Would you, or you helped me buy a house 10 years ago. Would you help me sell my house today?" What do you do?
Well, for the ones that are really close, like friends and family, I'm going to have to
you
service
help
them, right?
them, you help them,
But the large majority
Yeah.
of folks, usually they're being paired with someone within our own office, right? Because we have the best agents in business. So if it's somebody's, let's say, for example, working in a specific market, we want to make sure that that particular customer, I would personally, anybody who I've serviced in the past, be able to say, hey, so-and-so from the office is going to be able to service you.
Right, so you cultivate the best agents. You make sure that the best, because you want all your previous book of business to get the best. And that sort of symbiotic relationship caused you to grow. I mean, just in Brooklyn, you had 600 closings in the last year, in 365 days. But you've had more closings in Staten Island and Long Island, within your reach. So what would you attribute to your success? What's the secret formula, if you had to share that? Unless you don't want to share it. But
No. First and foremost, again, we're actually at 1,000+ transactions. Proud to say.
Thank you.
So I would just ask that question again. I mean, so you're saying, what would you say is, so how do we spread out, right?
Yeah.
Again, it's just, it's finding those agents in each one of the markets that we could really help, right? Because I think one of the challenges for agents, what I saw, my frustration prior to opening the brokerage, was really that there's a couple of different categories of agents, right? And a lot of agents are forgotten about. If they're a middle, they're forgotten. They're the top, they're forgotten. And I can't explain why or why not.
Those dynamics, yeah.
But what I can tell you is we don't want to forget about agents who are committed, right?
Right.
And that's really the focus here. If they're committed, we have a spot for you here, right? But the challenge is, how can we level up our commitment? So finding those agents that want to align with us, and it's been a slow, but then when you look back at the numbers, has it really been slow?
I don't think so.
But I say slow growth is actually just trying to find those agents that we want to be in business with. Yeah. And of course, then there are agents that reach out to us and want to. So I would say finding those quality agents, and really it comes down to committed, right? Because I think one of the challenges, when people say, well, quality over quantity, quantity over quality, right? The reality is this: if someone is committed,
Yeah.
they're going to do well in this business. Because what I found, anytime you unpack an agent in their business, if they're committed, okay, I'm hard pressed to find the fact that they can't produce in this business. Once they're committed,
Right.
they always find a way to make a living and make a living and beyond.
It's all about energy and commitment and consistency and doing the work. And it's hard to self-regulate, but being at a brokerage where the broker is pushing you and really there for you, not for his own listings, is a tremendous difference, a tremendous help. So I commend you on that, because in my career, I haven't seen that. I haven't seen anyone do that except you. So I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Organization.
Oh, thank you for coming today, because I really wanted people to know that dynamic. So okay, you've been in the business for how long now?
22 years.
22 years. And ReMax Edge is a company at this stage. How old is ReMax Edge?
5 years old.
5 years old. 5 years old, $2 billion in sales or more.
Right? So yeah, I mean, this year alone, we're going to do about $1 billion.
Billion, right? At 145 agents. How did you, to go from zero to hero, there had to be some real help along the way. Did you have coaches, books, systems? I mean, what would you say was one of the drivers that got you to this point?
A lot. I consume a lot of content on the move. We're always on the move. I don't care what seat you sit in this business. you're always on the move. So anytime I'm on the move, I'm always listening to, I'm still listening to inspirational things, right? I like to be inspired by others, whether it's even another agent that's in the business. I'm inspired by what they're doing, right? I'm inspired. Look, I mean, this setup is just absolutely tremendous, and it's inspiring, right? So looking at that and say, how can then I level up our business for our organization to say, wow, look at what Daniel's doing here. I think that, to grow a business, right? I keep thinking about our customer, the agent, right? That's really the focus. So how do I stay inspired to help our customer, right? That's really the key. Is how do I stay inspired to help them with their business? Because what impact will we make if we do one thing that helps them change the trajectory of their business?
I love that thinking, but along the way, something had to inspire you. Was there a person, a book, a time, or an event that inspired you to really
To start the organization?
Well, you know what? To achieve. I mean, let's get to the core of it. You want to help people. That's the core of it. And by helping people, you are achieving. But what's driving you to achieve? What was that one moment in your life that, or book or person that,
So there's so many. So I would say that first, before we get into the book, I would say, or even podcasts, I think it comes down to my frustration with the industry prior to opening the brokerage. And the frustration was, I had built this 7-figure business, okay, a team business prior to opening the brokerage, and was crazy. I had a down with that, right? So I was second 2.5 years into growing my team. I had this 7-figure business, but less than a 6-figure net out, which was catastrophic. I was already in the business 10 plus years, and I felt just like defeated, right? I won the trophy, which we see a lot of that out there, right? Don't focus on the trophy, focus on the profit, friends, right? Because what happened was I was winning these trophies, and people said, "Oh my gosh, Mike, you're phenomenal. What's your secrets?" As a team prior to the brokerage, and then I was just completely deflated after like 2.5 years. Did I do something wrong? And what was happening is I was looking to leadership in that current organization, and a lot of respect to that organization that I worked with before. But at the end of the day, there was just no answers. And even I went into mastermind groups, and interesting enough, really, I think what some of changed my life was actually masterminds, Daniel, first. That's the first level. Because in that mastermind, what was happening is being vulnerable was actually what we talked about earlier before we started this, is I remember sitting down, and in that mastermind group, they talked about sharing their P&Ls. And I never forgot this. This is really what changed me tremendously. And I have a few friends that maybe can get on your podcast that, so let's say half the group were ego, right? Yeah, my margins are 70%. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I watch Shark Tank. Anybody's got 70% margin. I'm thinking like Warren Buffett or somebody huge is gonna
not even, but
somebody's gonna, So, and then I'm sitting, I'm like, but I'm sitting at a table. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm embarrassed because I'm literally having the best year of my life.
Right.
And I remember sharing with some friends, and they were like, do you hear that? And I'm like, yeah, well, I mean, what's yours like? And he's like, well, mine's not that way. And I remember, looking him in the eye, looking a few people in the eyes of that table and saying, you know what, we got to change, we got to do something here. And what's interesting is that little table turned into a larger table of other team leaders at the time, and there's still big team leaders around the country. So I think that moment right there put me on a different trajectory. The following year, I continued to on with my team, and I did 7 figures revenue, and then almost a 7-figure net out. So I changed it up a little bit, but it took some lessons. But the day to day, I think what inspires me is just hearing from others, right? And when I say whether it's Steve Jobs, go down the list, Elon Musk. Even Lori Greiner from Shark Tank. I mean, there's so many people. In fact, you know what? Talking about another person that inspired me. I talk about this all the time. I don't know if you ever, Shonda Rhimes, you know who that is?
Yeah, I love Shonda.
Right? So there is a YouTube video that was so impactful, I get goosebumps even thinking about it now, because we're looking for work-life balance, right? We always look for work-life balance, right? Because I have 2 children, my wife and 2 kids, and I was just like thinking about work-life balance. Like, how do I get more work-life balance? And she had had a commencement speech, and I forget which university she was speaking at, and I caught it. Maybe because I was looking at work-life balance videos on YouTube, and then boom, she comes up. This was years ago, and she said there's no such thing as work-life balance. And I felt like I've got to hear more.
Right.
And she told us such a moving story about how when she was crushing it, writing different shows, with Grey's Anatomy,
Yep.
right, and amongst others, and she was winning awards. She was crushing it, but then she wasn't able to make the dance recital for her children.
Right.
So what she said to the graduating class was like, "Hey, there's no such thing, and don't stress out about it." She didn't describe it as a pendulum, but all I saw, and somehow I got this, I don't know if I got it from another motivator or mentor, but I thought about the pendulum and how the pendulum of a clock swings back and forth.
Yeah.
Right, so when you're, let's say to the right, crushing it,
Yeah,
you can't go too far right because then you're just burning out there.
But you're so busy.
So busy, and then you're not paying attention to whatever it is over here. So let's
Yep.
say in this case, my case, family, right? So coming back this way, and then if you go too far left where you're doing everything you love, and then it's like,
You're losing
wait a minute,
out
you're
here.
losing that. And then the issue in the middle is burnout.
Yeah.
Because then you're like, wait, do I need to do this? I need to do that? And you're just not doing. So, if
no
you could
such
just
thing.
move as just
Yeah.
fluid as possible, I think that if you say anything that's really changed your trajectory in terms of besides my mentor getting started in the business, and I'm thankful for him for always saying be open-minded and always be a lifelong learner. I think that was a pretty impactful video because I think like everybody else, sometimes feels burnt out, right? I mean, yes, you run this massive company, you run this massive business, whatever it is, you're going to need some energy. And the question is how? And then you hear all these videos about the 4-hour work week and, is that even realistic? But I think about the pendulum. I always think about the pendulum. I think about what Shonda Rhimes said. And this way I could take a breath and say, okay, well, not everything's going to be perfect every day, and maybe not even every month.
No, but we try our best, and we
try our
go
best.
back and forth.
Yeah.
And people around us, if they love us, they understand and they support us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, impact theory is another good. There's so many. I can't even think in my head. There's so many.
No, that's great enough, guys. Check out Shonda. Shonda Rhimes' commencement speech. She's also an incredible writer, an incredible speaker.
Oh, incredible!
Yeah,
I get goosebumps even think because I could hear her voice. It was like a voice of reason when I was looking for oh my gosh, I'm doing all this and I'm doing all that, and I'm gonna.
Yeah, and that's another woman that overcame a ton of challenges to be where she's at in life.
Absolutely.
So not to make it too easy, but most people are motivated by a why, and usually that why can't really just be about money. So we touched on your family, but can you confirm what's your why?
Yeah, so another one that not only did I coach other people, but I always constantly remind myself that why changes. This is my personal opinion. I think it changes from time to time. Yes, it's always about family. It's always about self-care. But at the end of the day, I think it just changes from time to time. I think the big why, right, it's helping people and say, okay, well, one of the things, and going back to I hate to call it a cliche, right? We all want to help more people. I remember for a minute I wanted to get into want to go to law school, and I remember writing the essay to the entry letter. Thank you for and just saying, well, I want to change the world. I mean, I'm here for the little people. And the truth of the matter is, I grew up very poor. I had a very poor, a lot of stuff went on. I don't want to make it about the the violin. I think a lot of people have pretty tough stories growing up, but I had a pretty tough upbringing. Family went through a lot of stuff in order to get here. So I think at the end of the day, it comes down to, okay, well, how can I help more people, right?
Right.
So from when I got started in the real estate business, I was helping people find apartments.
Yep.
So that office that I worked for predominantly worked and serviced apartments. So literally, we would have somebody who literally had no money and they needed a place to live. So I took as soon as I got into business, that's how I got addicted. I was like, I've got to help this person, because I saw my mother struggling, trying to get apartments because a single mom, 2 children, and didn't really have a job, like a stable job. So when she was getting an apartment, people just slammed the door in her face.
Oh, I relate. Yeah.
So in my mind, I remember how interesting is it to be in the real estate business when I remember there was a time that in I think it was 3 times in 5 years we were asked to leave because the homeowner was selling the house.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how interesting, and sometimes I think about this, is that I remember that trauma that was going on in the house. It was a very stressful time because obviously
Things weren't stable.
Mom wants to find a place, and things are just like there's things in boxes, and we got to go, and we're trying to do school, me and my brother, and it's crazy to think about how I got into real estate. So I remember that, and I led with that, finding that person in the apartment, and then I was closing deals because I didn't even think about the commission.
Right, because it was about the person.
It was about the person. I was like, I remember showing up in a polished suit to help this person get this small apartment, and then just literally being their advocate.
Salespeople forget, like, the commission is always there. It's really about the person. Don't worry about the commission, because if you're helping someone, everything will be taken care of, right? That amps me up, that story, because I can relate to it. Without, making a 2-hour episode, I know your why. I know what you're doing. You're succeeding on so many different levels. Are there any tools or habits that you use frequently, daily, weekly, that you couldn't do what you're doing without? Maybe a habit, like, I don't know, calendar appointments. I have no idea, but like, what would you say, or that would be helpful to me or to any other agent?
Connecting with more people daily. I think if you have a number in mind, I think simply put versus all the systems, I think is connecting with more people daily. It's ingrained in my head that, whether I had a goal of connecting with 10 new people and 10 old people or people that I'm connecting with, that helps my day. Because what happens is, especially in our industry, we have to connect with more people. Whether you're working in a brokerage space, you're selling, you're renting apartments, you're selling apartments, it doesn't matter. If you connect with more people, you'll help more people. Right. So I think that has been a habit that now I don't think of, and now you're making me think of it. And sometimes I share it with agents. In fact, a lot of times, our business planning session we just had, I said to people, what's your number? Right, because what happens is, I remember, way back, and also when I was running the team, when you would ask people, how many people did you speak to today? And then I always hear excuses, because I used to, and guess what? I used to make those excuses myself.
Yeah, we all did.
Because they're like, I was just about to get to the 10 that I said I was going to call, and I had this thing, and the appraisal, the home inspection, and I think that, and then also now calling your old clients. Right? So I think if you just come up with a number, that habit has really worked for me in terms of growth, because it just helps. Like, okay, you got to call this person, got to call that person. I think that was a big aha, because what happens is sometimes, especially as salespeople, we get driven down by the systems, right? Because what happens is systems can go as small, and I know you're a big system guy, you have a massive system for your business. And there are many agents that would be very uncomfortable with how well your system is running, meaning Daniel's business is running, the stellar agent. So I think that, and I think that, but if you unpack first, and you unpacked, your system is also driven by how many people you communicate with, and just like you're reaching out to your audience here, it's saying, now you're driving the people into the system.
So I have to touch on that. That's everyone's problem, but could we go one step further? Do you think there's a real lack of connecting genuinely, connecting on the right foot, connecting for the right reasons? Because that, I think, is the number one barrier for salespeople and for the end user, the buyer and the seller. They don't feel the genuine connection.
Man, we can really turn this into a 2-hour podcast. Number one, it's empathy, right? So it goes back to, I'm going to give you the other part, but it's empathy. It comes back to what I said, but even that first apartment I was renting, the person that literally almost had $0 in her pocket, and getting her that first apartment, and she's so worried. Okay, it's just thinking about people, right? And having empathy for the person, not for the transaction. Right. So I think going back to what you said about, there's a lack of, I think, for example, when people say the finest compliment you can ever receive is a referral, right? So when you call somebody, and yes, let's say you called your buddy, let's say you call your buddy John, right? Hey, John, how are you, right? This is what usually a train. John, how are you? You go into this long, how are you, really following up, and at the end you say, can you send me some business?
Right, and how sincere is that?
And it's horrible, because think about, it's even, take yourself out of the real estate business. If, think about John, who might have been your friend in high school, and and then he calls you 5 years later, and then he asks you for a $10,000 loan.
Right.
And you just
Right.
You're like whoa. You just like I get it. We connect on Facebook, but like whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah.
At least like why don't we go out for coffee first?
Right.
So what usually I say is if you're fearful of calling those folks, right? I call it the re-engagement call.
Yeah.
Re-engage with people, but be genuine. And that's what I think during the pandemic times, COVID time, right? People were really genuinely checking on people for their health, and I'm hoping that.
And they had to be instructed to do that.
Well,
they had to be instructed. So I was one of those agents listening to coaches on how to reach out to people during COVID. Everyone was in almost in paralysis over what to do and what to say, but. I sort of got upset because to me that's the natural thing. And so I would challenge, not that I would say, volume is essential, but I would challenge everyone to, within their own ability, to connect on a genuine level with people, whatever the volume is that they can do. But just be genuine, because that's where business will survive and thrive.
Yeah, because if you think about it, I mean, in today's world with all social media outlets, people probably know what you do for a living.
Yeah.
Okay, but if you just listen to other people, and I forget what NAR says, how many transactions the average person comes across in their life. I know it was like maybe 3 or 4.
Right.
If you just happen to be there speaking to them, they're probably going to say, "Hey, Dale, I've got somebody." So if you just are giving value in the conversation, if you're just following up, number one, if you're following up with a past friend or past client, listen and then ask for permission.
Right.
That's where we're lacking as well, is also asking for permission for the follow-up. And that makes agents very uncomfortable to follow up, because why? You're a consumer yourself.
Yeah.
So what happens is if you're calling this person and you've asked them for business, now you feel uncomfortable following because you're giving them other value. You're going for an ask again. Versus if you ask for permission to follow up and to keep people updated about the market, most people, after a good conversation, because they're obsessed with real estate. I mean, clearly there's portals out there making billions of dollars on
They're totally
eyeballs.
fine with it.
So they're totally fine. Like, hey, I would love to get an update about what's going on, especially right now during these times.
Right, and your eyes are on my local market. It's not like all of New York or the country. I want to know what's going on in my neighborhood.
It's all about the long game.
Right.
That's the key.
Right. All right, well, that was really important. Now, if we could close for all the people, all the agents, and if you could impart any advice in a form of a billboard, where people are driving by the highway and seeing your billboard, what would you say to them?
What do you mean by that?
If other, everyone goes through their own journeys of trying to achieve, trying to live a good life, trying to have success in their own careers, and you've achieved some success, could you nail down a mindset or a piece of advice that you think would be helpful?
I am big on vision board, right? And I think that vision board, although when I first got started with the vision board, right? Vision board meaning putting your goals on a vision board and be able to see it daily, right? Until it's just ingrained into your head, into your vision, right? It's the Napoleon Hill, right? This is something you wanted to book.
You only think about what you see.
Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah.
A phenomenal book. That's actually another book that has changed my life. I read it about 5 times.
Okay.
All right. So the burning desire, right, to achieve, it only comes when you can visualize something. But here's my advice, though. Okay. Don't envision this. If you don't have the reach of the mansion or some having the helipad, and you're just so far from that. I wouldn't put that on your vision board, because it does create then the stress factor.
Right.
Right. And that's happened to me before, where it's like, all right, I want to be in Saint-Tropez with a yacht. Okay.
Right.
But again, I didn't start Amazon, right? We started, one day, soon enough, I'll be in the yacht, with my wife and kids and sitting there with, on the
I know
beach.
a guy.
Beautiful. So, but I think that if you pull it back first and start small, right? When I say start small, if you're envisioning buying your first co-op or first
achievable,
something achievable. And people have heard that before, but visualize what is achievable, right? Something that's going to make you a little uncomfortable, right? So you're not going to say, okay, well, I'm going to get a bigger apartment,
right?
Bigger rental. Maybe
something that's not going to happen next week, but could happen in 2 years.
So I think that's really helped me. I think being able to visualize that and then play it in over and over and over again. Because if you read Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, there are certain levels of mastery, and then once you get to a certain level, it's really just entrenched in your brain. Where I don't need more burning desire, right? Once in a while, I get a quick glimpse of a YouTube video, gets me all excited, but that's just going to set me off for the day. It's like a cup of coffee, but I already have that desire. Even if you knock me down a little bit, I'm still not gonna stop. So I just keep going. Even when things are rocky, you just got to keep going.
Guys, vision boards and just keep going, all right?
Keep going.
Michael, thank you so much for coming. This was great. It was so helpful to me, and I hope other people appreciate it as much as I do.
Appreciate the time.
Thank you again.